this is costing us, something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough in this chamber. But I'm reminded of the only time that I have ever been in the White House with a sitting president of the United States. It was about a week before the inauguration of Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and so I was there with President Barack Obama. I think it's important never to reveal confidences of private conversations, but he said something that was extremely interesting and I didn't expect to hear from a Democratic president. What he said is that the refugee crisis in Europe in 2015 would take down a number of liberal governments. Now, me as a conservative, I might not care about liberal governments going down, but I thought it was interesting that a theoretically pro-immigration guy, a guy much more committed to the cause of open borders than almost any Republican I know, would say that when you have wide open borders and when you have uncontrolled migration, it destabilizes governments. Well, of course, the former president is exactly right. Refugee crises do destabilize governments. Why are we not talking about the fact that in multiple countries in Southern Europe right now, they are being overwhelmed with people, not bad people, by the way. Most of them are just looking for food to feed their family or a job with a decent wage. But we're witnessing the beginning of what I will believe will become the biggest refugee crisis in the history of the world. Why? Because in Africa, which has 1.5 billion people, most of whom have a standard of living much lower than what we have in the United States of America, you have grain prices through the roof, wheat prices through the roof, barley prices through the roof. And as anybody who is advocating an endless war in Ukraine asked, what happens when 1.5 billion starving people start to move north to look for some food? You don't have to make any moral judgments about the plight that they will go on. You should make a moral judgment about the people in this building who refuse to think about the unintended consequences of their actions. Are we really willing to have over 1 billion people starving, trying to pour into the borders of Europe and the United States of America? Are we really willing to set up a refugee crisis, the likes of which the world has never been seen? And if we do that, what effect will it have on our allies in Europe? What effect will it have in our own country? What effect will it have for millions of American citizens who are already dealing with the consequences of an overwhelmed southern border? And I want to talk about that overwhelmed southern border in a second, but I want to keep talking about the unintended consequences of the war in Ukraine.